Today, I'm bringing guys a brand new sports cards video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the sports card junk slab era. If you guys are not familiar, in the 90s when the sports cards had a big, when the sports card market had a very big boom, there was an overprinting. It became the junk wax era where there were so many cards that prices simply plummeted. And I'm going to be talking about similarities and differences and whether I believe that's going to happen again or whether I believe things are going to go in the opposite direction. So without further ado, we're going to hop right into this video. So firstly, I want to break down the big problem that we have right now. And that is, the mass slabs that are hitting PSA especially. I think that's the biggest problem that people are seeing. There isn't as much of a problem with BGS and SGC, but PSA has just been receiving an incredible amount of slabs. And for example, Luka Doncic's base prism in a PSA 10 has a population of over 18,000. And so that is causing incredible concern because as we've seen for this card over the last, since August of 2020, this card has just been on the downfall. So it's become very hard for cards like these to really rise when the population count keeps going up. And it's even worse for some cards such as, Zion Williamson, and the newer years are seeing even worse pop numbers. So it's just become incredibly hard for demand to meet the supply because the supply continues to go up. And for example, Zion's pop is coming close to 21,000 in a PSA 10 alone. And then when you add up all the other grades, it's just crazy. There's over 16,000 in a PSA 9. And the sports card market as of now does not have the demand to meet these crazy high supplies. And if we look at an all-time great like Shaquille O'Neal, who I think Zion Williamson has a very low chance of reaching Shaq's level. His pop is just 3,600 and we see his prices cannot sustain. And his prices have dropped all the way down to $230 for 1992 Topps Shaquille O'Neal rookie card. For an icon like Shaq, and firstly, one reason for this is because a lot of investors are buying into current players who are playing. And that is kind of the gambling aspect that is causing demand to be higher on Zion. And that is why, for example, a Luka Doncic rookie card with 7 times the population as Shaq is going for more than or around double the price of Shaq. And in the long term, these numbers are simply not going to work out. I think it doesn't take a genius to kind of point that out. It does not take a genius, to figure that out, I would say. So I definitely think there is a big problem here. And where I personally am going to kind of turn this into, instead of just talking about the problem, kind of the lessons that you guys should learn from this and how to invest smartly in the future, is finding those cards that are undervalued in comparison to, for example, the base prism. So the base prism, for example, on a Devin Booker has a PSA 10 population of 1615. And for example, his red, white, blue prism, which is a parallel that's getting more popular nowadays just because of pop numbers, has a PSA 10 population of just 109. And you would think that there's, a big price disparity between these two cards and that a red, white, blue prism is going for a lot more than his base prism. But that's simply not the case, as of now at least, for Devin Booker's cards. So his red, white, blue prism in a PSA 10 is just $660, whereas his base normal prism is around $541. So the prices are very similar in between a card with 109 population and, a 1,600 population. And I think as more investors get into the market and understand supply and demand trends, as more experienced investors, for example, in the stock market, coming into the hobby, or just as people go on and see the trends in which the sports card market is going to, I think a lot of investors are going to be going towards the lower pop options. And we've already seen so much data to prove that this is the way that the market is trending. And one example is, some silver prisms are holding up a lot better than base prisms. As we saw earlier in the graph, Luka Doncic's base prism has been going down dramatically. And his silver prism is holding up a lot better in the long term. But even that population in a PSA 10 is over 2,000. If we look at some of his, for example, autographs, which have an ultra low pop, these are holding up a lot better. And in fact, are seeing great growth. So, for example, Luka Doncic's autograph with a pop 194, his brace rookie signatures autograph has gone up from 3,000 to 4,000 is the last sale. And if we look at his other cards with higher pops, they're going down in that same time period. So that's something, I think is very obvious. The market is trending in a certain direction. People are going away from base prisms and going towards prism autographs. We see the same exact trends with countless other players. And I think it's kind of come to the point where it's quite obvious that the better investments long term are going to be these hidden gems, these autographs, these different opportunities for investors to get into aside from just the base prism. We've seen, for example, a 41% growth in the last 3 months on Jason Tatum's rookie signatures. And if we compare that to his base rookie, which is also done pretty well, I will say, but it has not gone up close to as much as his prism autograph. So I definitely think there's going to be a lot of room for growth in several different cards. For example, if you're going for low pop autographs, one of my personal favorites is going for any low pop Kobe Bryant autograph. I think these long term are going to do incredible. But I think his base tops, is in a very tough position right now. And I personally do not see it rebounding. This card has taken a huge hit. At one point, this was going for $12,000, and it's currently down to $1,350. And it just continues to go down. There's no signs of increase. And so I definitely think these are some things you guys really have to start looking into. And I think the whole market is going to really adjust in terms of what's going to play out in the long term, because as the long term starts to play out over time, we're going to see these trends continue, I believe, because it's simply supply and demand makes it literally physically impossible, unless Luka Doncic turns into the next Michael Jordan and sports cards continue to stay really hot. I think it's going to be very tough for a Luka Doncic to hold a $450 price in a PSA 10 with an 18,000 pop, when a guy like Shaq, his base tops, which was pretty much at the same level of Prism at the time of release, has a pop of 3,600 and is going for $230. So these numbers are just not going to work out in the long term. And what I personally believe is going to happen is these are going to continue to go down, but we're going to continue to see good movement on low pop cards, and especially as sports cards grow with it, which if you guys saw my video from my video 2 times ago, so from around a week ago, if you guys check out that video, you guys will definitely see how I believe that, the sports card market's going to do incredible long term. There's going to be a lot of growth to be had, but in very certain spots of the sports card market are we going to see growth. So I definitely believe going for GOATs is always a smart decision in terms of long-term investments. However, it might be smarter to go for some lower pop options. One personal example that I've been investing in is Tom Brady's Bowman Chrome in a PSA 10. This has a pop of just over 1,000, and for a GOAT like Tom Brady, I think this is going to play out in the long term, whereas I think there's going to be a lot of cards that really tank in the long term. I have to be real with you guys. I definitely think a Luka Doncic base prism, a Zion Williamson base prism, any card with the pop higher than 5,000 that is not of a GOAT is just not going to play out in the long term. And I'm not saying Luka Doncic is not a spectacular player. I think he's one of the greatest young stars in the game right now, and has great international appeal. However, I just don't think his base prism is going to be the way to go in the long term. There's so many different options in terms of Luka Doncic autos that I think are going to play out in the long term, this being one of them, but I don't think his base prism is going to play out. So I hope this video kind of helped spark a discussion. Drop below in the comment section, what your thoughts are on this whole situation, what you think is going to happen in the long term with all of these prices, and where you think the market is going to go in the long term. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. And other than that, I'm out. Peace.